The Cowboys have been perpetually disappointing for the past 2 decades. Will this year be any different? I see some aspects of the team that maybe make you say yeah, but I see other glaring issues with the team that makes me say they're not going to do too much. And I'm sorry about that, but I see a team that hired Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach, and I can't be overly optimistic. Today we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. In my 2025 power rankings, they are my 21st ranked team. There is stuff to like, there's stuff to really not like. I'm going to go over it, starting with the first issue that I want to point out. Schottenheimer. I still don't understand why they hired him. I mean, I have conspiracy theories. I think maybe he was just the cheapest option, so they chose to go with him. But I like to hope an NFL team would be a lot smarter than that. But there has been a lot of evidence with the Dallas Cowboys that they care more about the sales of tickets and all of this other stuff than the actual on-field product. And this hiring is a clear sign of that. Brian Schottenheimer has been the offensive coordinator for Dallas ever since Kellen Moore left. The team was 21st in total points scored last year. I really just don't understand what about this makes you say, oh, he's a head coach to us. And I understand that you want to keep an in-house guy around, but normally that's what you do if your team is successful. If your team hasn't won a playoff game in forever, why do you feel a need to keep that same stability around? I just don't understand that. Now, maybe you're concerned about, I don't know, a Dak Prescott drop-off if he changes the offense. So you just kept someone around who's going to run the same offensive system? Maybe. But I'm going to be entirely honest. This is one of those things I really just don't understand. To me, I look at this hiring and I say, worst head coach hiring since David Culley. And before that, I don't know, Hugh Jackson. Like, I'm expecting that caliber of head coaching right here. There's not much optimism with that, which sucks because you look at the talent on this team. I like Dak Prescott. I think he's a pretty damn good quarterback. Okay? I think with the right pieces around him and the right scheme around him, he can light up the stat sheet. You look at the receiver room. CeeDee Lamb is unbelievable. They like to put this guy in the slot because he's such a good after-catch weapon. And now they added someone who could be more of that possession guy to really complement CeeDee Lamb in George Pickens. I loved this trade. This trade was awesome because he's going to play that kind of Michael Gallup role for Dak Prescott, and that's going to translate a lot to some nice play offensively. They also have a very, very, very nice offensive line. The left tackle's a little bit of a question right now, but Tyler Guyton's a young guy. I have a decent amount of faith that he's going to be able to pick it up. But it's really the interior that I want to point out. Cooper Beebe was outstanding. Outstanding. Tyler Booker, I think, fits this scheme really well. He is an absolute bulldozer. He might not be a great mover, but if you're running a lot of duo and gap scheme type of stuff without having him pull much, he's going to be a dominant player. And then Tyler Smith has been one of the more underrated players in the league. Just a truly spectacular guard. And Terrence Steele is a solid player too. I really like that offensive line. I do. If Tyler Guyton could take a step up, I think things could look really good for that offensive line. Even though I don't like the running backs much, I think it is probably the weakest running back room in the league. I still like guys like Jaden Blue, a rookie that they drafted out of Texas, enough to say this could be a productive running game with those guys dominating on the line of scrimmage. Now you get Dak Prescott throwing some passes to George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb off of that, complementing that run game. I think things can go really well here. They're not deep at receiver, and like I said, the running back room is bad, but still, this should be a good offense. Defensively, it's a very strange spot here. Because on one hand, I think they're going to be able to make a lot of plays, right? A lot of plays. Micah Parsons is an outstanding pass rusher. I mean, this is a guy who among pass rushers with over 100 pass rush attempts was third in pressure rate, fourth in QB hit rate, second in QB hurry rate, and sixth in sack rate. That's a really nice pass rusher. Really nice pass rusher. He is going to get offenses caught behind the chains a lot because of how great he is at getting to the quarterback. And then in the secondary, you have two more playmakers in Trayvon Diggs and DaRon Bland. Put them in a defense coached up by Matt Eberflus, who's all about trying to play safe, a lot of soft zone, softer coverage. That's perfect for these two guys because they have such great closing speed and they're going to make some plays on the ball. True ball hawks in that corner room. It makes sense. Like, the scheme fit definitely makes sense for those two guys. I think they might have really good years, get some picks, some pass deflections. They're going to have some nice seasons. At least I have faith that that'll be the case. But as good as that is, and as good as guys like DeMarvin Overshawn are, this is going to be an awful team against the run. Awful. I think that they're going to be good at defending the pass. Like, I don't have many doubts about that. But in terms of stopping the run, this might be the worst run defense of the past decade. Like, it very well can be. Micah Parsons, yeah, he's a great pass rusher, but he's not a very good run defender, in all honesty. Mozzie Smith is a liability. Like, you might as well just have 10 men on the field. Like, he is horrendous. He's one of the worst starters in the league right now, if we're being 100% honest. And I feel the same way about Kenneth Murray. I like Overshawn, but he's more of a coverage linebacker. He used to be a DB. He's not someone that defends the run overly well. Dante Fowler is the complimentary edge rusher on the other side for Micah Parsons. He's more of a pass rusher. He turned back the clock and did a good job as a pass rusher last year, but he's not some great run defender. And then even the guy that they drafted in Ezereku, he is more of a pass rush specialist. So they are not going to be good at all against the run. They're going to be really bad against the run. But I think they're going to be able to make plays against the pass. And teams mainly throw the ball. Now, there will be teams that see Dallas and how bad they are against the run and just say, okay, we're pounding the rock 35 times in this game, and we're going to win purely because of that. But then there's also going to be some teams that stupidly try and pass over and over and over. And Micah Parsons is going to eat them alive. And Trayvon Diggs is going to have a pick or two. DaRon Bland is going to make some plays. Like, that is going to be the weird spot this Dallas defense is in. They're going to be pretty good against the pass and awful against the run. Offensively, it's similar in the sense of they do some things well. They're going to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. But teams that won't get blown back 5 yards and kind of put more pressure on the running back to make plays, they're going to struggle to run the ball. Teams that have two great corners and all of a sudden the Cowboys have to rely on targets besides just George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys are going to struggle in those games. This seems like a very matchup-dependent team. And it's similar to other Cowboys teams in the sense of when they're playing against good football teams, they're going to get picked apart. But when they're playing against the lesser teams in the NFL, they're going to look spectacular. And this has been the situation with the Cowboys for a while. How does that translate to the win-loss column? Let's look at the schedule and find out. It really sucks because the Cowboys, like I said, are a team that are going to beat the bad teams and struggle against the good teams. And this is a schedule where there's a lot of good teams and not that many bad teams. We're going to go through it. Starting with week 1, you're playing against the Super Bowl champion. The fact that they let this be the season opener is fascinating. Fascinating, because this is going to be like a 35-7 final score. And that's me being generous. They are losing this one, and they're going to get crushed. But then they'll beat the Giants, and they'll probably win by a lot. Because when Dallas wins against these bad teams, they like to add on to it. They like to run the score up. And they're going to do that here. But Chicago is no longer this bad team. Chicago's very good. Caleb Williams, he's still a little bit of a question mark, but we look at this receiver core or just all the weapons. I mean, So many guys that they could throw the ball to, and they're going to do a good job. I mean, Luther Burden, they added him. DJ Moore, I expect to bounce back. They added a tight end with a top 10 pick. Cole Kmet is still a good tight end. They have all these different ways of attacking you, and one of the ways they could attack you is the run game, because now they bolstered up that offensive line so they could beat you up that way too. Chicago's a good team, and you're playing them in Chicago. I think that the Bears are going to win that one. I feel pretty good about that. Now, I do have Dallas beating Green Bay. This one's going to be a little bit of an upset. I think Green Bay is just going to kind of get caught off guard, partially. I think that Dallas has two really good receivers, and Green Bay no longer has Jair Alexander. They aren't great in the secondary, and I think we might see a narrow victory for the Cowboys here. I also think this might be a game where Jordan Love turns the ball over, right? We know Jordan Love is going to try those tight windows, and we know this defense can take advantage of that. I think this is a good matchup for a Dallas team that we talked about it. They're opportunistic on the defensive side of the ball. But then I think the Jets upset them, right? I think the Cowboys are going to be a very different team when they're on the road, and that includes a game like this where they're playing against a team that's going to fight really hard. There's a huge difference in terms of who the head coaches are for both of these teams. Both of them are first-year guys, but Aaron Glenn already has an identity set up. Meanwhile, this Cowboys team, I don't really think they're playing for too much other than ticket sales. I do have the Cowboys getting a win on the road, though, against the Panthers. The Panthers are a worse team. They're going to be able to beat up on those worse teams because they're going to put them in a position where they can't control the game by running the football. They're going to have to throw it more. When you're trailing and you have to throw more, that's when Dallas is going to be at their best because, like I said, they're not going to be great against the run, but against the pass, they're going to be a lot better. Washington, I have them winning this game. I think it's partially going to come from a bad performance by Washington. I think that Dallas will have a little bit that they feel good about at this point, right? I still think they're going to see themselves as a competitive team, and they're going to play like it for a period of time. This is also not a Washington team that wants to run the ball an overwhelming amount. And like we said, Dallas is at their best when you're not running the football. Micah Parsons against that offensive line can do a lot of damage. I think the Cowboys are going to win this one. But then we already know the Broncos are not going to hesitate to just do what works. And what works is going to be running the ball. We know Sean Payton is fine just pounding the rock repeatedly down their throat. He's completely fine with that. So that's what he's going to do there. And again, Dallas playing on the road, I don't think they win that. Then Drew Petzing and the Cardinals, they want to run the football. They're going to do that well. I think that they know as long as they don't give the game away, they're going to be perfectly fine here. Dallas is going to have a bye, but I don't think they're going to make many necessary changes as they go on to lose against the Raiders, lose against Philly, lose against KC. I think the Raiders are really going to heat up towards the end of the season. And KC and Philly, well, they're just way better teams. I don't think Dallas can beat that many better teams unless those teams give it away, like I expect Green Bay to do earlier in the season. I do think that Detroit will get upset. Now, I know that I just said that, so why do I have the Cowboys beating Detroit? Well, I think that Detroit, around this point of the season, is going to get caught sleeping. All these good teams can get upset around week 13 to week 15. It tends to happen. And that's going to include Detroit trying to play cocky football. Jared Goff, maybe a 4-pick day. We know he's prone to have some bad days. Once a year, he just has some random bad game. And I expect that to land against Dallas because, like I said, opportunistic defense. They're going to get after Jared Goff. When Jared Goff gets pressured, some bad things can happen. And I think Detroit's kind of going to give that game away. But then I don't have Dallas winning another game until week 18, right? I don't think they're going to go into this Vikings game with the correct scheme to beat up on a Brian Flores with all his different defensive looks. I think that the Chargers are absolutely winning that game. They're going to run for 250 yards in that game. They're going to smoke them on the ground. And I think Washington's going to learn their lesson. They're going to see all these other teams and how they beat Dallas and kind of just copy that format. Even though they're not a great running team, I think they're going to commit more to running the football there, and they're going to go ahead and win that way. But then I think the Cowboys will end the season the right way, beating the Giants in New York, just for the sake of giving the fans optimism for next year. I know this isn't a successful season, but in all fairness, the schedule is very difficult. I did give them two major upsets against Green Bay and Detroit, just because I think they play them at the right time where they'll be able to catch them off guard. And yeah, it doesn't look good, quote unquote, but frankly, as long as tickets sell, that's considered a successful season for Dallas, because that is how that team operates. And I'm sorry, any Cowboys fans, but that's the reality of this team. They don't care about the on-field product. If they did, they would have hired a different head coach. I appreciate you all watching. I'll see you next time.